你哋可以閂咗個鏡頭先嚇，多謝你哋。Welcome everyone to our monthly practice. Welcome Venerable De Hong. And as you know, we're switching to the first Tuesday of the month. So today is our first meditation session and also Dharma sharing of 2024. And as it turns out, Venerable De Hong will be going back to the university this year. And so our material this year, this week, as well as all the subsequent week, would be pretty much coordinated with his teaching. And so we have a unique opportunity to start learning Buddhism from the very beginning. And so with that, I welcome Venerable De Hong, and let me turn the podium over to Venerable De Hong.
Thank you, Danny. Greetings. So tonight, I'm going to be speaking or talking about the Four Noble Truths, and I'm going to break it into 4 months. So tonight we will be talking about the First Noble Truth. One thing to keep in mind about the teaching of the Buddha is that we don't just read for knowledge. We read, we understand, and we contemplate, and figure out how the Buddha's teachings can apply to our lives, to in all aspects of our lives in terms of our stress or suffering, even trauma. So I hope that, with this course, it can help you to understand the stress that you faced on a daily basis in terms of family relationship, friendship, between spouses, between parents and children, because the Buddha's teaching are quite applicable to all these issues. And with that, the Four Noble Truths was the first discourse, the first teaching that the Buddha gave to the 5 ascetics that he practiced with. And it was something that the Buddha was able to develop upon his enlightenment. So one thing in the introduction here is that the Buddha always, in most of his teachings, is, as he said here in the Samyutta Nikaya 56.31, is that his teaching is about stress or suffering. What is the origin, what is the root of the stress, and how to bring an end to it, or how does stress, how can one eliminate stress, and also the path of practice leading to the cessations of stress. And you can read all his teachings, and it's all about dealing with stress, dissatisfaction, or suffering. And that's how you know that is the teaching by the Buddha. So the Four Noble Truths, as the Venerable Sariputta said, it encompassed the entire teaching of the Buddha, and it can be understood as the categories of experience, not knowledge. Okay, and what it means is that as a way that we can know and describe our experience not in terms of either in terms of me or not me, or in terms of being or not being. When we in the daily stress that we have, when we maintain the idea that this is my suffering, this is my stress, then we identify with the stress, and that's important to understand. But when we look at any type of stress that we faced, know that the stress is constantly changing, or in here, the word is inconstant or impermanent. So when we identify it is of no use, because that stress, when we speak of, sometime later will change. The word that the Buddha used in terms of the Pali language is dukkha. It means, incapable of satisfying, unable to bear or withstand anything. What it is that it's always changing, even suffering, incapable of fulfilling us or making us happy. It's just this constant change. But here, dukkha, the stress or suffering that we are talking about, it does imply physical pain and mental pain as well as psychological pain. Here, in one of the articles, taught by Thanisao Bhikkhu, the title of the article is "Life Isn't Just Suffering," because when we begin to look at the early teaching of the Buddha, it seems like, it was a paradox. It's like, okay, the teaching of the Buddha was about suffering, and in the eyes of the view from the West or from the American perspective, it can be seen as negative and pessimistic. But what the Buddha meant was that he was just basically pointing out the stress of the suffering inherent in all our experiences. And it's because, of how we are conditioned to the experiences, whether it is pleasure or unpleasure. With pleasant pleasure, we cling to. So basically, he taught us not to deny our suffering or run away from it, but to face it directly and to examine it carefully. And by understanding it, we can ferret out the cause and put an end to the suffering that we are sitting with, that we're dealing with. So what it is that in the First Noble Truth that we are talking about tonight is about clinging. And basically clinging is suffering. When we cling to anything, relationship, to material, to anything that is tangible, is going to cause either physical, and then which leads to mental pain, or psychological pain that leads to mental pain or mental illness. What the paradox here is that when we cling to things, we don't trap or get them under our control. The issue is that we trap ourselves. When we realized our captivity, then we naturally search for a way out. And that is the paradox. We have to be able to recognize that we trap ourselves. The thing is, if life is just about suffering, then where would we look for an end to suffering? There's no end, right? But the point is that when we recognize that clinging is suffering, then we will simply look for the clinging and eliminate the causes of our clinging. So what is the First Noble Truth? here in the Samyutta Nikaya 56.11, the Buddha said, now this monks is the noble truth of stress. Now, this teaching, it refers to monks as meaning, Buddhist monks and Buddhist nuns. That was the common way that the Buddha addressed to at the time. But this applied to all of us, any person. So, what is the noble truth of stress? Birth is stressful. Aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. As dealing with people we don't like, or here, association with the unbeloved is stressing. Separate from our loved ones is stressing. Not getting what we want is stressing. And, in short, the five clinging aggregates are stressful. And the issue here is that we need to comprehend, we need to understand it. And I'll elaborate a little bit later. I'm also including another teaching which has here, I highlighted red. Number 8 is that sickness is suffering. I want to make sure that we include everything that we as humans that we face that is suffering, and definitely sickness, illness is suffering. Sickness here doesn't just mean a cold, but terminal illness. Mental illness. And if you guys recognize that, remember, ever since the pandemic, we have a lot of people die in the US, over 2 million people that die from COVID. It is suffering. And the point here is that we must penetrate and fully understand suffering. So another sutra related to the First Noble Truth, which was elaborated by Sariputta here, he basically explains, why birth is suffering. Taking birth, descent, coming to be, meaning the father's sperm and the mother's egg together, that is what we call coming to be. And the appearance and the formation of the 5 aggregates, and eventually we form as a fetus in our mom's uterus. That is called birth. And why is aging suffering or stressful? The decrepitude, the brokenness, getting gray, right? Wrinkle, the decline of our 5 sense faculties, our eyes, our ears, our sense of smell, our sense of taste, and our sense of touch. They decline as we age. They are weakened. That is, aging is suffering. And death is also suffering, the breaking apart of the body. And for the person who is dying, that is a physical death. But we will see here, both aging, sickness, and death. At first glance, it is physical stress or suffering. However, it can lead to psychological or mental suffering on the affected individuals as well as their loved ones. Let's say death. When someone is passing away, his or her family members, even friends, are grieving. And that will take years, even a lifetime. That's what the Buddha meant when he said death is suffering. And so from a physical death, but it can cause grief, which is psychological, and also can become a mental illness. That is the key to understand why both aging, sickness, and death are suffering. So continuing on with, what is sorrow? What is lamentation? Sadness, inward sorrow, sadness of anyone suffering from misfortune, that is sorrow. Lamentation, crying, grieving, lamenting, weeping, wailing, lamentation of anyone suffering from misfortune is lamentation. Pain, it's bodily pain, bodily discomfort. Here it basically referring to physical pain. And what is distress? When whatever that is experienced as a mental pain, a mental discomfort, it is considered distressed. Despair, desperate, of anyone from misfortune, it is also it is considered despair. So these are the different ways of our perception that is stressful. And then association with the unbeloved. Let's say we have to deal with people we don't like, or we have to deal with things that we don't like: smell, sound, flavors, tactile sensations. That is something that we don't like. Whatever that we don't like, it can be stressful. Then separation from loved ones. If we separate from, let's say we don't have, if someone incarcerated is deprived of the dressing nice, music, sound, aromas, flavors, that is suffering. Or when we separate from our loved ones, our friends, that is also suffering. And not getting what we want, let's say if someone is poor, he or she cannot have whatever that he wanted, or cannot live wherever that he or she wanted, or even going to the school of the person's choice. But even here, the Buddha meant, that we are subject to both aging, sickness, and death. And these are the things that we don't like, but then we also get it. So it is also suffering, because we want to be young, we want to be healthy, we don't want to die, we don't want to become old. So that is also suffering. So basically what it says here is that the 5 clinging aggregates are stressful, meaning the 5 aggregates refer to the makeup of a human being, meaning form, perception, feeling, volition, and consciousness. This is another topic that we will discuss in the near future. So in review, from 4 to 7 that I show in the slides, in one of the slides, they appear to be psychological suffering, but it can lead to physical and mental suffering, or affect our physical and mental health. Here I came up with this model that shows the layer of suffering, right? At the bottom, this is a triangle. At the bottom of this layer, of different layers, is the fundamental of suffering: aging, illness, death, birth, and the all the 8 types of sufferings that I list at the beginning. I make them like white color, just because we go on our daily lives, and we didn't even pay attention for the most part. We didn't realize that we are aging every day, that we could get sick anytime, that we could die, or our loved ones could die by the time we realize that it could be too late. So that's the very, very subtle, very fundamental stress or suffering that each person experiences. Then the second one in blue is that if someone experienced any form of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, it is trauma, it is abused, and that also is on top of the fundamental suffering. And then for someone who goes on about their lives, when that person has relationship with family, with friends, or intimate, spousal relationship, and if it is stressful, that is trauma, and it can cause PTSD. And on top of the layer, I make it in red and make it pointy, is stress from work, stress from school, because I taught this in school, so I also reference school. But and the thing is, we think that work and school are the most stressful, but we didn't realize the other stresses that we carry as well. And when you look at this, it will tell us the different layers of suffering that we experience on a daily basis, ongoing, continuing, though they can change. So in a way, for you guys, I would say, to contemplate on, basically this is your homework, is that of the 8 types of sufferings that I list, how many of those that you had experienced, and how did those experiences affect you mentally, physically, psychologically, and how did you cope with them? Then the last question is, at the moment in your life, as you look at your relationship with family, your spouse, or with your parents, your children, your relatives, your friends, your co-workers, right? Which relationships affect you that you still have to deal with? And the key to learning Buddhism or learning about the Buddha's teaching is that we need to investigate as well, besides meditating. So my point here is that this is what I meant by contemplation, is that we don't just meditate for the sake of meditation. Of course, it does help to give us our sense of self-awareness, but also another part of the practice is called contemplation, which is part of our spiritual practice. Is that, let's say, what it is, meaning that when you meditate, you recognize a thought or something that keeps coming up. And actually, let me take that back. For when we meditate, we just let go of the thoughts, just so that we can build up these qualities of concentration and mindfulness. Now, let's say after we meditate, we take some time to investigate. Let's say, if there is a thought that keeps coming back, then we need to investigate why this thought or this experience, this person that kept coming back earlier. And usually is stressed or worry or planning. So you want to investigate that, just so that you have a better understanding, just so that you don't ignore it. Otherwise, when you meditate, it comes up, or it can affect your mood, your attitude. It can make you feel frustrated easily, or makes you feel angry easily. So when you investigate or contemplate on that, then be very open, be critical, and be objective, just so that you can fully understand why this person or this thought keeps coming back. And that is contemplation. That is part of the mindfulness meditation practice. So with that, I'm surprised that I think that I'm on time. With that, we can go on and continue to, let's start meditating. So take your posture, whether you are sitting or lying down. If you are sitting, make sure that you are sitting up straight. If you are lying down, make sure that you have something to anchor so that you don't fall to sleep easily. And let's take a few deep breaths. As you breathe in, notice that your body may tense up a little bit because your body takes an amount of energy and effort to fill your lungs with air. But when you breathe out, it takes no effort or energy, and that's how you can relax your body. So pay attention to your breath and see how you can relax your body when you breathe out or exhale. Let go of your thoughts, let go of your thinking, planning, let go of your worry. Then allow your body to settle properly. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in the body. And know that the feeling, the sensations are quickly fading away. How you feel next depends on your mind, your body, or both. Let's continue to pay attention to your feeling. I believe last month we talked about mindfulness of feeling, so let's continue with that. Just understand what you feel, whether you feel pleasant or unpleasant. If you feel pleasant, check to see if that's external or internal. External means that you feel good because of someone or something. We call that the mundane or ordinary pleasant feeling. So allow the feeling to rise and to pass. Try not to cling to it, because chances are that feeling does not come back. If you cling for it, you'll be disappointed. If you feel good naturally from within after a few minutes of meditation, then we call that the supermundane or spiritual pleasant feeling. This type of feeling, you don't have to crave for it. All you have to do is sit still, let go of your thoughts, your planning, your worry. Eventually, you'll be able to feel it. If you feel unpleasant, again, check to see if that is external or internal. External means that you don't feel good because of someone or something. We call that the mundane or ordinary unpleasant feeling. Try not to suppress or ignore or deny it. Allow yourself to feel it. It can be uncomfortable, but when you are sitting with a sense of self-awareness, you recognize how it feels in the body and let it go. When it comes back again, just do the same thing. Over time, the intensity of that uncomfortable feeling will fade away, will be lessened. If you don't feel good from within, it is called the supermundane or spiritual unpleasant feeling. Then let go of your demand and expectation of where you should be or how you should be. And this is the mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness of feelings or feeling tones. It allows you to be in touch with your feelings, to process all your feelings so that you don't have to suppress or ignore them. And you notice that most of your feelings were affected by someone or something, and that you have been conditioned to feel that way. So with a sense of self-awareness, or what we call mindfulness, you're able to recognize these feelings and let them pass, that ultimately you can feel calm and peaceful no matter what. Let's move on and do the same store practice by first checking with the environment around you, basically the space around you, the room temperature. Then check in with your mind, see how busy it is with thoughts, or restless, wandering around, or both. Your feeling, your perception, your mood, your attitude, your personal view, all can be affected by your mind. When you check in with your mind, it gives you the ability to pause, to stop, and reset yourself. Then your sense of seeing, whether your eyes are open or closed, your sense of hearing, know that you cannot turn off or shut down your hearing consciousness. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste. These four senses, when you are meditating, for the most part, they are at rest. Your mind could also be at rest if it's not thinking, and wandering. Then finally, your sense of touch in the body, being aware of the sensation, tension, or physical pain that are constantly taking place in your body. This is the sense door practice that helps you to stay grounded and centered, no matter where you are, so that you don't easily get distracted or feel overwhelmed when you are being triggered. Let's take the next couple minutes and do the body scan on your own by paying attention to your whole body and see what comes up. Be it the tension in your forehead. Notice the spot between your eyebrows. Make sure that your face is not tensed. Your jaws are not locked. Any tightness in your chest area. Any sensations in your tummy. Any tightness in your neck and shoulders. Any physical pain in your lower back, your hips, your knees, your ankles, your feet, your hands. When you are doing the body scan, you become more sensitive to any issues that your body may have. And this is how you are taking care of your physical health. Let's move on and cultivate concentration by bringing your attention to your breath. And all you have to do is being aware of your in-breath and out-breath. You don't have to closely following it. All you have to do is, as you breathe in, you know that you are breathing in. As you breathe out, you know that you are breathing out. And that's all you do. When your mind wanders away, gently, patiently, bring it back to the breath. Allow yourself to smile, to make it interesting for the mind to stay with the breath longer. Else the mind is very sensitive and powerful. It may just disappear. If your mind is restless, wandering from one place to another, then you can repeat a mantra or prayer. But ground your attention in the breath, meaning that every time you recognize that it wanders away, you bring it back to the breath. Without judging or getting upset at yourself. Be patient, be kind to yourself. When you notice a thought that comes up, let it rise, let it come, let it go. Try not to follow any thought that comes up. All these thoughts that appear because you have either suppressed or ignored them. So as soon as you are meditating or sitting around, they showed up seeking your attention. And all you have to do is acknowledge each one, accept it, and then let it go. And this is how you process all the thoughts in your conscious mind. You may also notice the inner critic or the storytelling mind that keeps spewing out stories. Try your best to ignore them. With time, you can silence the inner critic or the storytelling mind. You also noticed a pattern of thoughts, as well as your behaviors in the past. As you look at the thoughts from your conscious mind. If you notice the same thought or the same image, the same person keeps coming back, you can quickly take some time to investigate, to figure out why. If not, put it aside. You can come back to it at a later time when you have more time to do your contemplation. So continue to sit still. Pay attention to the breath. The longer your mind is staying with the breath, the stronger is your concentration, the deeper is your mindfulness or awareness. Smile when you remember to relax your whole body and make it interesting for the mind. And also notice as you are sitting that your body is in stillness. See how you can help your mind to stay with the body instead of traveling from places to places. The key is wherever the body is, there is the mind. Let's sit still in silence for the next few minutes. You can continue to stay with the breath to cultivate concentration and mindfulness. Let's come back and check in with your mind again. See how settled, how clear it is. That is less reactive, less judging, less wandering. Your perception, your personal view, your attitude, your mood, all can be affected by your mind, your emotion, and your body. And the qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience that you just cultivated. Okay, it's all yours, Daniel.
Thank you, Venerable. We have 120 meditators on Insight Timer in addition to Facebook and YouTube and Zoom. So first of all, I want to really thank you for coming back to us and joining us again in this monthly get together, both Dharma, sharing Dharma as well as meditation. But also, I want to thank all of you out there in the different platforms for joining us. I think today is really the beginning of, well, it's the beginning of 2024, but it is also a beginning of, I believe it's going to be a very interesting set of discussions. We're now talking about the first Noble Truth, which is really the first building block of the teaching that is passed down to us by the historical Buddha. I know, Venerable, you're actually teaching a class this year. You were teaching before, you kind of took a break from teaching, and now you're going back. And if I remember, if I understand it correctly, the class is about Buddhist psychology and its application to preventing substance abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this course is a graduate course, so I have to compact everything together. The title of the course is Buddhist Psychology and Addiction. What it is that how we can deal with addiction through the lens, the resiliency of Buddhist psychology. And the Four Noble Truths is just one of the topics that I will cover. But the thing is, I don't know much about addiction yet. So there is another instructor that will be teaching addiction with the different models that have been proposed to deal with addiction. So that's what the course is about.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is addiction to substance, whether it's alcohol or drug or
Alcohol and drug mainly, yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just curious because it's interesting because you had this picture of the historical Buddha sitting in front of his 5 disciples,
Mhm.
which are basically his 5 bodyguards. When he left the palace, his father, the king, sent it to protect him, but they
Mhm.
also eventually became his fellow practitioner meditators. And
Mhm.
actually, the story was that um, they were all ascetics, right? Yeah,
Aesthetics, yeah. Mhm.
aesthetics, yeah. And then um, Buddha decided to abandon that practice, and so when he did, all his fellow meditators, all 5 of them, um, decided that maybe they're not together anymore. They're not doing it, So they kind of abandoned him. And so when he became awakened, aware, he actually came back and they become his first students. So now, obviously, when he was teaching to these first 5 students, he wasn't teaching about substance abuse or addiction. But in a way, he was, because his teaching is all about addiction, because life itself is an addiction.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? We
Yeah.
call that they were called ascetics. It's about denying the body, denying to
Yes.
nurture your body,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
during the Buddha's time, even today in India, a lot of people practice something called not, denying or not
Yes.
being. So
Yes.
so yeah, it's part of the addiction model.
Yes. Yes. It is. It is because if you look at Buddha's teaching, it's very similar to the 12 steps.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the 12 steps, and what we talk about today, the first noble
Hmm.
truth, is really the acceptance part. Is just accepting that the body is who we are, right?
Yeah.
As
Hmm.
opposed to denying ourselves of the sensation, we should understand it and embrace it and understand how, um, in what way could we make this existence um, be wholesome to us and not unwholesome. And so I don't want to take too much time unless there's any questions outside. We welcome questions. But the most important message here is that even though Venerable have been with us for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of times already, I believe today is really the first time that we are bringing the Buddhist teaching to our forum. So I want to make sure that everybody stay interested and be able to come back month after month. And but before we leave, I want to come back to this idea of addiction and denial and or the opposite, which is accepting who we are. I want to tell this story about a priest teaching the idea that on our shoulders we have one side the angel and one side the devil, right? And they could be the one that influence our behavior.
Hmm.
So as he was teaching, one of the students ask, and he says, "Well, which one dominates? How do I know? How do I deal with the angel on one side and the devil on the other side?" And the priest says, "Well, whichever one you feed."
Correct.
And I hope that all of you out there stay with us, because that's really what we're talking about here, is to understand that our emotions can be consist of wholesome or unwholesome. The wholesome
Mhm.
ones are the loving kindness, compassion, empathy, and equanimity. The unwholesome one are the attachment and the aversion and doubt and all that, which leads essentially to anger and jealousy and all that, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
whichever one dominates is whichever one you feed. And
Correct.
so there is sort of the theoretical part, which are the Four Noble Truths, and then the skillful part, the practical part, which are the four foundation of mindfulness, which are the skills. So anyway, I thank you for all of that. And so we have a comment from Kat. Thank you for the comment. I'm hoping that there will be a comment out there. Somebody's out there. 129 people, 128 people out there. Somebody ought to have some feedback. So Kat, I thank you for your comment. What she said is that we are very much interested and extremely grateful for this opportunity to learn more and grow. And she speaks my mind as well. Okay.
Thank you.
All
Hmm.
right. So
Thank you.
we'll keep it up, and I'll see you all here next month,
Yeah.
always first
Hmm.
Tuesday of the month. Okay. So let me just shut off the platform one at a time.
February 6th. Hmm.
Yeah, and again, thank you for all the donations. And by the way, it would be match a dollar for dollar, and I'll give you a report on how much we sent to Venerable De Hong today. Okay. All right.